Hey, what's up everyone? Jamie here from CLA Community Learning Alternatives, and it is What The Tech, where we talk about the latest in consumer technology, computers, the internet, mobile phones, web apps, and everything in between, or in this case today, beyond, because we are looking at some pretty futuristic technology in today's What The Tech video. Links to all of the clips that we're going to feature here today will be in the description below. We've got 3 amazing stories about some futuristic technology coming up. First, Boeing is launching a brand new prototype drone. This is developed by Boeing in Australia. They've delivered the first of 3 prototypes. These are advanced combat drones. The unmanned aircraft have a nickname. They're called the Loyal Wingman because they can fly alongside piloted jets or on solo missions. Let's take a look.
This is our first look at Boeing's newest unmanned military aircraft. Say hello to the Loyal Wingman. Guys, I've been waiting to see what this thing would actually look like for over a year. You might remember I told you about it back in March of 2019. When I say that's a Loyal Wingman, you might think I'm talking about that bro who helped another bro get that girl's number at the bar. Back then, all we had to look at were renderings. But what you're seeing now is the first prototype of what Boeing hopes will be the future of air combat. This was delivered to the Royal Australian Air Force last week, with 2 more on the way. The delivery of this prototype is significant for a number of reasons. It's actually the first aircraft to be completely designed and built in Australia in more than half a century.
The Loyal Wingman will be pivotal to exploring the critical capabilities our Air Force needs to protect our nation and its allies into the future.
The drone is built to rely heavily on artificial intelligence, but since it's designed to accompany pilots on missions, it's been nicknamed the Loyal Wingman, though it can operate independently for solo missions. How it was built is almost as interesting as the drone itself. It was built alongside what Boeing calls a digital twin. Essentially, that's a highly detailed virtual version of the drone. Engineers create the twin by 3D scanning the parts, the process seen here on a different aircraft. Once the twin is complete, engineers can do all sorts of different testings and trainings on it that can be applied to the real thing. Now, the drone is made of advanced composite materials, including what Boeing says is the largest ever resin-infused single piece the company's ever produced. The wings are made up of just 2 big composite pieces, built using a process pioneered on the Boeing 787, more commonly known as a Dreamliner. Measuring in at 38 feet long, the drone has a range of about 2,300 miles, with what Boeing calls, quote, fighter-like performance. Also really interesting is the drone is customizable. At least the nose is. Kind of like a modular phone, the Loyal Wingman's nose can be swapped out depending on the needs of the mission. It's described as snap-on, snap-off, with 9,000 cubic inches of space that could be filled with whatever payloads are needed. So think different tracking systems, radars, weapons, whatever the mission calls for. Now, it's not clear what the Loyal Wingman cost to build, but the Drive reports that the goal is to keep these around the same price point as a similar drone being developed for the US Air Force called the Valkyrie. That costs around $2 million. Now, the Loyal Wingman is still in the early phases. The drone hasn't taken its first flight yet. Boeing Australia says they'll start with ground and taxi tests, then move on to putting this bird in the sky for its maiden flight later this year. I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And the implications here go far beyond just military aviation. I mean, if you think about it, so much of the technology that you and I use every day has its roots traced back to military innovations. So how do you see this technology transitioning to commercial aviation? Particularly at this time during the pandemic, when that industry could really use as much innovation as possible.
Alright, that's all well and good for us Earthlings here, but what about on Mars? We all know that eventually we're all going to move to Mars, right? I'm just kidding, of course. But NASA still wants to explore Mars, and they are going to launch a Mars rover this summer. It's also going to have a very special cargo on board, a helicopter. NASA's Ingenuity rover aims to be the first robot to take flight on another planet. Here's why it's such a big deal.
In just a few months' time, humans are going to be sending a freaking helicopter to Mars that weighs less than this 2-litre bottle of soda. Why is this mission so important? Well, put on your commando gear and lather some baby oil into those biceps, because it's time to
Get to the chopper!
While we're all stuck in lockdown for who even knows how long, NASA, the US Space Agency, is getting ready to explore another planet. Again. Except this time, they want to do it by air. The Space Agency is dropping off another Martian explorer in early 2021, the rover, known as Perseverance. The primary mission of Perseverance is to look for previous signs of life on Mars with a suite of science instruments. But the rover will not be alone. Tucked away in its belly will be a small helicopter or rotorcraft named Ingenuity. Early in the mission, Perseverance will spill its guts, regurgitating Ingenuity onto the red planet like a mama bird feeding a baby bird. Once Ingenuity is released, Perseverance will roll along on the surface of Mars and get out of its way, and shortly after, the flight tests will begin. But Ingenuity has to overcome some major challenges to take to the skies of Mars. For one, we've never actually flown a spacecraft on another planet before, and it's not like as easy as controlling a drone is on Earth. Second, Mars doesn't really have much of an atmosphere. It's there, but it's super thin. It's about 1% as thick as the Earth's, and that means the tech needed to fly is a little different to what we might see down here. Third, Mars really likes to kill our robots. It took poor Spirit, and it's taken Viking 1 and Viking 2. Unfortunately, Mars is just really cold and really dusty, and it's not shielded from the radiation from space, so it's really nasty on the surface. And fourth, you really only get one shot, one opportunity to make it all work. Fortunately, Ingenuity is ingenious? It's basically a box with 4 legs attached to 2 carbon fiber rotor blades. On top lies an antenna and a solar panel. Like some of our smartphones, Ingenuity even has a tiny, clever processor inside its guts, and that's basically it. The remarkably simple flyer is not designed to fly all over Mars. In fact, it's only really designed to fly for short bursts, about 30 to 90 seconds at most. But that's important, because putting a chopper on the surface of the red planet will be useful for scouting missions. Although we can map Mars from space, getting up close and seeing what lies ahead will be useful for future rover missions. NASA thinks the ability to see further ahead will actually allow rovers to move across the surface of Mars much faster than they have in the past. Opportunity, the little rover which was lost in June 2018 and officially announced dead in February 2019, travelled around 28 miles over 14 years. Rovers have to move slowly, with NASA engineers on Earth feeding instructions that take about 10 minutes to get to Mars, so carefully planning the route for a rover is important. Imagine having support by a helicopter. That would enable Mars rovers to roll further than ever before and at a much faster pace. On top of that, NASA's rovers can't get everywhere. They aren't built like planes, they're built like cars. And if they want to get up onto a rocky outcrop or the side of a mountain, they have no hope. But a helicopter can do that. And what about when humans finally get to the surface of Mars? Our drone-like scouts won't just be gifts that we give to our Martian sons and daughters, but they'll be fully fledged surveyors that can help us get a better understanding of life on the red planet. Now, NASA notes that Ingenuity is not actually part of the Mars 2020 mission proper. Perseverance's main goal is to look for signs of past life and then collect samples which can, hopefully one day in the future, be brought back to Earth. Ingenuity won't play any part in that. It's just a tech demonstration, but it's one that aims to prove we can tell a robot to fly all on its own. If Ingenuity can take to the skies of Mars, it will be quite an impressive achievement. The world's first helicopter, the very unusual VS-300, only took flight for the first time in 1939. That's just a touch over 80 years ago. And now we're going to go fly on the surface of Mars? You know, I really think that's something that our good friend Arnold Schwarzenegger would be proud of.
So, Mars exploration, living on Mars, that's all well and good, but where are we going to sit once we get there? Where are we going to hang our hat? Where are we going to live? Room bots might be the answer. These room bots can self-assemble to make, move, and enhance furniture. Check them out.
They're called Roombots, and they're made by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology Lausanne, or EPFL for short. These autonomous, rollable, stackable robotic orbs can lock onto each other to form a variety of shapes and perform a variety of functions. They're still in the proof of concept stage of development, but the possibilities are literally limitless. A recent video released by the EPFL shows the robots autonomously assembling into a chair, with an occasional human assist to nudge them into position or change batteries. Think about the potential here, especially for folks with limited living space. Someday, instead of awkwardly pulling a chair out of storage when you've got company, you could just call on your Roombots to make an extra chair for you right there on the spot. They could probably make moving a whole lot easier too. The Roombots also can light up in case you need help finding them in the dark, or you just want some modular furniture that can turn up. Another potential use of these Roombots is that they can help modify and enhance existing furniture. For example, you could enable a table to pick a pen off the floor and keep itself level over slopes and stairs. When it comes to chairs, Roombots can push one around by rolling on the ground to follow you or stay out of your hair. For some of these experiments, the Roombots worked in conjunction with a Microsoft Kinect camera, enabling the robots to move in reaction to the movements of a person. These Roombots aren't the only modular robots currently in development. MIT's MBlocks 2.0 connect to each other using magnets and use a barcode type system to identify one another. Inside the blocks is a flywheel capable of 20,000 rotations per minute. When a brake is applied to the flywheel, it creates the momentum that moves the blocks. While these modular robots don't yet appear to be as dexterous as some other robots which were designed to perform specific tasks, the appeal of modular robots is that they could be deployed in cases where the exact type of robotic assistance required is hard to predict. For example, the MIT engineers behind the MBlocks envision them potentially being used to aid in disaster response, perhaps being put to work rebuilding a part of a staircase that was damaged so rescue workers could have easier access. Similarly, the EPFL envisions the Roombots might be a space saver in small apartments, or a way to enhance furniture to assist people with limited mobility. In addition to their potential earthly uses, modular robots could also play an important role in building a future for humans in space. In a NASA contest aimed at designing a home for astronauts on Mars, architecture firm Hassel envisioned modular robots arriving long before the first astronauts to get a head start on building a base camp. Of course, modular robots with these types of capabilities are years if not decades away, but these early prototypes certainly prove that, like the humans that created them, these modular robots can accomplish a whole lot more when they work together.
All right, and that is all for this week's What the Tech Wednesday video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions for an upcoming video, drop us a note in the comments below. I've been Jamie, and this has been What the Tech Wednesday. Thanks for watching.